Today, we're diving deep into the fatal mistake nearly everyone makes when they discover the law of assumption. Why you spend hours on visualizations, recite affirmations daily, and stick to your spiritual practices religiously, yet never see your manifestations come to life.
Hello everyone. This topic is so relatable for so many people. So many of my friends, and even myself when I first started, threw ourselves fully into the law of assumption. We set alarms for our morning practices, wrote detailed scripts, and showed up every single day only to see zero movement after months. We ended up either doubting our own worthiness or writing off the law.
But what we're sharing today will completely erase that self-doubt. These teachings come directly from Abdullah, the mentor who guided Neville Goddard himself. Abdullah watched Neville grow from a young man with a surface-level understanding of the law to someone who fully embodied and mastered it. And he said one thing that cuts straight to the heart of the issue. The reason most people see no results is not that they practice too little. It's that what they've been practicing is not the law of assumption at all.
Wow, that's an incredibly eye-opening statement. So you're saying everything we've been doing was wrong from the very start?
It's not that the techniques themselves are wrong, it's that you've been aiming at the wrong target from the very beginning. Abdullah said there's a core truth most videos and teachers about the law never tell you. You are not here to start using the law of assumption. You have been using it this entire time, every single day.
How do we make sense of that? If I've been using it this whole time, why haven't I manifested the things I want?
Because the law never waits for you to activate it. It's operating nonstop 24 hours a day. It manifests the default habitual inner state you return to, most often the deep-seated assumptions wired into your subconscious, not the 10 minutes of affirmations you recite intentionally each morning.
Oh, that clicks instantly. Is this exactly what happens when I stand in the mirror every morning saying, I am abundant? But the second I open my banking app, a quiet voice in my head says, yay, but nothing's actually changed. That quiet thought is my real assumption, isn't it?
Precisely, you have been using the law of assumption every hour of every day. Since the moment you first formed a belief about yourself, the assumption that you're not quite ready, that you're not enough, that you haven't quite arrived yet, the assumption that money is hard to come by, that good things only happen to certain people, and you're not sure you're one of them. These thoughts you barely even notice, these default beliefs, are all assumptions, and they have been manifesting in your life consistently this entire time.
That's such a wake-up call. I've always had this thought that good things never happen to me. And sure enough, I've watched opportunity after opportunity pass me by. That's the law in action, isn't it?
Exactly. And Abdullah emphasizes this critical point. The law has no preferences. It doesn't know your name. It doesn't know your purest intentions. It only recognizes one thing, the state you are inhabiting in this very moment. The core mistake most people make is that they think about abundance while inhabiting fear. They repeat affirmations of certainty while inhabiting doubt. The law will always faithfully deliver what you inhabit, not what you recite with your mouth.
So what's the right way to do this? How do we actually use the law the way it's meant to be used?
Abdullah says the shift that changes everything is never adding another practice to your daily routine. It's understanding the critical difference between two types of imagining. This is what makes Neville's teachings unlike anything else ever written about the mind and manifestation.
Two types of imagining. What exactly does that mean?
The first type is what nearly everyone does every single time they practice imagining about your desire. You construct a scene in your mind where you have the thing you want, then you sit in the audience, watching that scene unfold from a distance, like you're watching a movie of someone else's life. You are an observer, not a participant.
Yes. That's exactly what I used to do. I'd visualize getting my dream job, but it felt like watching a film clip, no real sense of being there. And of course, nothing in my life changed after that.
And that's exactly why nothing changed, because the law was working perfectly and manifested the exact experience of a person watching their desire from a distance, a person who has not yet arrived at their end goal. The correct way to imagine the second type is imagining from your desire.
Imagining from your desire. Can you break that down for us in practical terms?
It means you are inside the scene, not watching it from outside. You are the subject of the scene, not the observer. You are not looking at a version of your life where the thing has happened. You are looking out from within that life, seeing the world through the eyes of the person for whom it is already done. It is not a constructed fantasy. It is already done, already a fact.
Oh, that's what Neville meant when he said, live in the end, isn't it? Not just visiting the end state for a few minutes a day, but actually living there full time.
That's exactly it. When Neville said you must live in the end, he didn't mean visit it. He didn't mean rehearse it. He meant live in it. The end is not a destination you are moving toward in the future. It is the address you are already living at in your consciousness. That is the first critical distinction almost no one tells you directly.
So what's the second key distinction that most people miss entirely?
The second one, overlooked by 90% of people, is what Neville called the inner conversation, and it is perhaps the most impactful teaching he ever recorded.
Inner conversation. Is that just the quiet little voice we have in our heads? The constant self-talk we do all day.
Precisely, not your formal affirmations, not your structured visualization practice. It's the quiet, unbroken commentary running beneath every single experience you have. What you say in that ongoing commentary is your real assumption.
So that split second after you finish a visualization, when that voice pops up and says, "But nothing's changed," that "but" is the real assumption we're holding, right?
That is 100% correct. It's not what you declare in your morning practice, not what you affirm in the mirror. It's what you mutter silently when you open your bank account. It's what you think the second you hear about someone else's success. It's what you say to yourself in the 30 seconds after you finish imagining. That "but" is your actual assumption, and the law follows it with total precision. Neville wrote this clearly: your inner conversations must match the wish fulfilled, not some of the time consistently.
Because the state we return to most often is the state we're truly inhabiting, right?
Exactly. The law does not care which state you held for 20 minutes this morning. It registers which state you live in by default, the one you slip back into when you're not actively trying, the one that runs in the background when you're not paying attention. That is where the law does its most consistent, reliable work.
The theory makes so much sense. But do you have real, documented examples of this working? Actual stories of people who applied this and saw real results?
Absolutely. Abdullah shared 3 documented stories recorded by Neville himself, each one so precise it cannot be written off as coincidence. The first story is about a man Neville knew personally.
Please, walk us through it.
This man had hired a landscape artist to tend to his garden. The artist crew made a costly mistake. They used too much nitrogen in the fertilizer, and 3 of his 4 trees died. By all conventional logic, he had every right to confront the artist, demand replacements, pursue compensation. But he didn't. He chose to apply the law of assumption.
What did he do exactly?
He sat in his car outside his garden and imagined himself leaning against the one surviving tree, looking across at the other 3, seeing them thriving, full of life and greenery. He felt that state fully, deeply. He took no legal action, made not a single phone call, applied no pressure whatsoever. He simply inhabited the state in which the trees were already well and healthy. Shortly after, the landscape artist returned completely unprompted. He acknowledged his crew's mistake with the fertilizer and replaced all 3 dead trees at no charge.
That's incredible. He didn't reach out at all. He only shifted his inner state.
Not a single word to the artist. The second story comes from Neville's documented testimonials about a woman he identified as JB. She had a close friend whose own husband had flatly said she would never get married. JB didn't argue, didn't discuss the matter with anyone. She simply began every time her friend came to mind to see her differently.
What did she imagine specifically?
She imagined her friend as a joyful woman, settled, at ease, and deeply loved. And every single time she imagined this, she added one specific, unchanging detail. She saw her friend extending her left hand, and she admired the wedding ring on her finger. She held that image consistently for weeks, inhabiting the feeling of seeing her friend in that state. Eventually, the friend introduced her to a kind, settled widower she'd recently met. JB could see the clear connection between them, but said nothing and continued holding her image. A month later, the friend came to visit. As JB walked forward to greet her, the woman extended her left hand, and the ring was on her finger. She was married within 2 weeks. The outer world reproduced the exact detail she had imagined down to the gesture.
That's mathematically precise. Even the exact action of extending her left hand matched perfectly.
Exactly that precise. The third story is about a man who had never spoken publicly in his life. He was invited to address a small community club, and the host told him they typically got 18 to 20 people at these events, and the room held a maximum of 65 people. The man went home, and he did not imagine preparing his speech or the drive to the event or the performance itself. He only imagined speaking in a room that was full or nearly full. He held that image just 3 times in his imagination. On the night of the event, 64 people were present. Afterward, he received 2 more unsolicited invitations to speak at other clubs with no outreach or effort on his part.
The common thread in all 3 stories is that none of the outcomes came from physical action, right? It all came from anchoring into that inner state.
That is the through line. The trees were replaced without confrontation. The ring appeared without a single conversation about marriage. The room filled without promotion. In every case, the person inhabited a specific inner state and held it steadily, and the outer world arranged itself to match it precisely. This is how the law of assumption actually works. It is not a reward for effort or positive thinking. It is a mirror of inhabitation.
Then, I have to ask the question every single listener is thinking right now. What do I do when the outer world doesn't confirm what I'm imagining? What if days, weeks go by, and nothing changes, and everything I see seems to contradict the state I'm trying to hold.
This is where most people quietly walk away. They don't make a big declaration that the law is fake. They just start qualifying their belief. They tell themselves they believe, but the word almost creeps in. They keep imagining, but wrap the scene in an inner commentary of doubt. They end up in this middle ground, not in the state of the wish fulfilled, not in the state of the wish denied, just in suspended hoping. And the law faithfully delivers that suspended state right back to them.
I've been in that cycle so many times. The longer you wait, the more anxious you get, the more the doubt creeps in, and it just becomes a loop with no results.
Neville wrote a core truth: an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. That word persisted carries everything, and 90% of people misunderstand it. Persistence does not mean repeating the same visualization more frequently. Persistence means you do not exit the inhabited state when outer circumstances contradict it.
So we can acknowledge what we see in the 3D world, but we don't have to let it pull us out of our end state.
Exactly. You can acknowledge what you see. You don't have to pretend the outer world is different, but which state you are living from, and you return to it again and again. Abdullah said he saw this quality in its purest form in Neville's own mother.
Neville's mother. Did she also understand the law?
She understood it perfectly without ever even naming it. She wanted to travel from Barbados to visit New York. She didn't petition her husband. She didn't beg or plead. She simply appropriated the journey in her consciousness and arranged herself inwardly as a woman whose passage was already booked and settled. She had her dresses made for the trip. She moved through her days as a woman who was going. Her husband had no idea about this quiet inner work. Then one afternoon came home and told her he'd booked her passage. He said she looked tired and needed the change, and fully believed the idea had come from him alone.
That's so effortless. She didn't even do repeated visualizations or affirmations. She just lived in the state.
That is persistence in its cleanest form. It is not the mechanical repetition of a technique. It is the returning again and again to a state that feels true until it becomes the place you live from by default. You are not manufacturing certainty. You are relaxing into it. You are allowing the assumption to become the most natural thing in your inner world, like the familiar feeling of walking into your own home.
Is there a simple, actionable practice we can do tonight to step into this state?
Abdullah shared an incredibly simple bedtime practice that anyone can do. No experience required. Tonight, before you sleep, think of something you want. It doesn't have to be your biggest, grandest desire, just something real and meaningful to you. Instead of imagining a scene from the outside or repeating affirmations to yourself, try this. Hear someone who loves you speaking about you in the third person, as though the thing you want is already fully settled.
So it's not us affirming to ourselves. It's hearing someone else talk about our success as a fact.
Exactly. Not you affirming, not you declaring, someone else, someone whose voice, and trust speaking quietly to another person about you. Their words carry the simple warmth of someone stating a fact about a person they care for. Things like, the money came through for him. She finally got that position. He seems so settled and happy now. Just that quiet, natural, true in their voice said.
That feels so much more authentic than forcing affirmations. It's so much easier to drop into that feeling without that sense of fakeness.
That's the beauty of it. Let that be the last inner conversation you carry into sleep. Don't work at it. Don't force the emotion. Simply let that voice be present as you rest. That is the inhabited state. That is the assumption in its most natural form. And if you lose it tomorrow morning, if the doubt comes back, that is not failure. That is the ordinary experience of a person learning to relocate their consciousness. The practice is the returning.
This episode has been so transformative. I feel like every single question and frustration I've had with the law of assumption has finally been answered.
To wrap this up, let's leave you with the ultimate truth Abdullah shared. You are not being asked to create a new reality. You are being asked to choose which reality to inhabit. Every state exists right now. The version of your life where you are wealthy, where you are loved, where your wish is fulfilled, it exists right now, fully formed, complete. You are not building something that does not exist. You are moving into the version of yourself for whom it is already true. Change your dwelling place and imagination, change the state you inhabit, and the world of the senses will follow. It cannot do otherwise. That is the nature of the law.
We hope this episode has helped anyone who's felt stuck, frustrated, or confused on their journey with the law of assumption. Feel free to leave your thoughts, your insights, or your desired end state in the comments below.
Thank you all for listening to today's podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.